Is big money coming into Bitcoin? That is the speculation that is going around the industry at the moment after news broke overnight that BlackRock are filing for an ETF slash trust, which we'll go into more detail in a minute. We'll also take a look at the charts and also review what happened in the week in terms of CPI and FOMC. So before we get into the charts, let's deal with the big stuff. Let's go with what happened earlier in the week. So we said on Monday it was going to be a big week full of data-driven news. In the end, the price volatility wasn't as big as I was expecting. We certainly had a little bit of a drop, but we'll get into that when we get into the charts. As I say, let's take a look at what happened with the CPI and FOMC. So CPI data came in pretty good as expected. Inflation coming down a little bit lower. And then the following day, we had the FOMC announcement on rate hikes and obviously the meeting afterwards talking about how they're looking into their plan for the future. So if we just take some key points here. So as I say, the data was pretty good. However, the Fed are still targeting that 2% target inflation rate. And bearing in mind, we got up to, I think it was around about 9.1% in the US in terms of inflation. I think we're now down to about 4.9. But the common analogy I use is getting inflation down is kind of similar to losing weight. If you go on a diet, you're losing weight, the first few kilos will drop off like that, no problem at all. And then as you lose more and more weight, it becomes more and more difficult to shred. So that's very similar to what's going to happen with inflation. The first chunk's quite easy, and as we get closer to that 2% target, it's going to become a lot stickier. So we'll have to wait and see how long it takes and what it requires to get down to that 2%. But the Fed are determined to get down to that 2%. They've not moved it. They've not changed it. They are still going for that 2%. Also, they are going to keep the quantitative tightening schedule until that happens. So there is still a hawkish feeling tone coming out from the Fed, and not only that, but they are not ruling out any more rate hikes. There is an expectation that there is going to be another hike. So as you can see down here, a hike in July or September isn't in our baseline forecast, but it is quite possible if the next jobs report or CPI report come in hotter than expected. So whilst they did pause, that they're not saying that that's it now. There could be another hike or two. It is all going to be data dependent, and they have ruled out any chance of rate cuts this year. So no cuts until at least 2024. So as you can see just here, the first dot plot depiction of individual members' interest rate expectations suggests that the Fed will not pivot from rate hikes to rate cuts until 2024. So they're the main takeaways. The Fed still wants to get down to 2%. They're still going to be data dependent on CPI and jobs reports, not ruling out another hike before the end of the year, and they are ruling out any form of cuts before next year. So fairly hawkish, and you can see an hour after the FOMC, decision came out, Bitcoin took a little bit of a tumble. If we just quickly get into the charts, we go down to the 1 hour, you can see this was it here on Wednesday, 7 o'clock, and then boom, a little bit of a drop. As you see, we recovered a fair bit, so not too bad. We had a little tickle underneath 25k at 24.8, but obviously that big level is the 25.2k level, which we are currently holding on to as monthly support. Before we get deeper into the charts, let's deal with the big news, which is, as I say, the BlackRock iShares. Now, there's some outlets reporting that it is a trust, and others saying that it's an actual ETF. Now, that isn't really too much. That's not really the important factor. The important factor is actually that it is a spot Bitcoin trust or ETF. The fact that it's spot Bitcoin is very, very good, because it means they have to hold the asset on their books rather than just having a paper-based ETF or trust, which is basically worthless. It means they've got to take Bitcoin off of the market and hold it for their customers. And what this means is that wealthy individuals or wealthy trust funds, etc., they can actually, have some exposure to crypto without having to worry about, keeping things safe, having their keys, having a ledger, all that sort of stuff. And it's very similar to obviously what you can do with gold. You can buy gold ETFs which track the price without you having to worry about where you're going to keep your precious metals. So this is very similar. It allows big money to come into the market. It also opens the doors for things like pensions and stuff like that. So it is a huge opportunity, I think. So we'll just have to see whether it all pans out. Now, we've had a lot of ETF application rejections in the past, mainly from Grayscale. But, something tells me that when BlackRock want to put their name on something, they normally get their way. So obviously can't predict the future, but I think this is highly likely to get approved. When there's no dates about when it's going to go live, I think it won't be before the end of this year. It will probably be towards next year, or into next year, I should say. So watch this space. I think it's huge news. And as I say, the fact that it's a spot Bitcoin Trust / ETF is the most important thing. So you can go ahead and read about it. There's loads and loads of articles, but they have very, very deep pockets. And I mean, as you can see, they manage $10 trillion worth of assets under management. So, if just 1% of that goes into Bitcoin, it could be pretty huge. So let's get into the charts then. What does this mean? As I say, we'll work from high time frame to lower time frame. Bitcoin monthly time frame, as you can see, holding 25.2k for now. We're about just over halfway through the month, so far so good. In terms of the weekly, again, not really much to add in that similar sort of support area. And then even on the daily, again, this area has been tested. I spoke about this on Monday. This 25k area has been tested multiple times on the monthly, weekly, and daily time frame. So it's an absolutely solid support, and so far we have bounced above. But as you can see, the daily is in a monster downtrend. So would take one hell of a move to reverse that, and not really much price action on the news of BlackRock. So that is quite interesting. If we move on to ETH, let's take a look at the monthly. So as I've warned about, if this is one big deviation of the monthly level 1721, that is bad news. We could see it return to the lows of the year, which was $1,200 back in December, January. Go to the weekly, doesn't look much better. We closed a weekly candle below 1783, and as you can see, we are breaking down further. My next weekly target, if we can't get back above 1783, is down here at 1370, which was the March. So when we dipped to 20k on BTC, that was the bottom for ETH, down at 1370, that big wick in March. That's the next target for me. And then on the daily time frame, what's currently holding us up is this 1635 daily level, which was the bottom here on the 16th of March, the start of this leg up. So losing that, and I think that would open the doors down to 1370. Take a quick look at ETH BTC. As we can see, we're getting rejected hard off of that 0.07 level we highlighted 2 weeks ago, and breaking down further, which means Bitcoin dominance is continuing to rise. I think there's a very strong chance we hit 52% dominance on Bitcoin, which would be, in my personal opinion, a fantastic area to be adding to your alt bags, especially alt BTC pairs, because they have been getting absolutely slaughtered. There's only so far Bitcoin dominance can go up before it turns, and when it does, then the altcoins really do have a good time. And obviously, the further, it's kind of like a ball, a bouncy ball underwater. The further you push it down, the more it's going to explode back out. So I think that's a very good analogy for what's going to happen with alt BTC pairs at some point. As I say, up to about 52%, that's when things could start to turn. If we just take a quick look finally at the S&P, which is absolutely flying. So I've been talking about this 4327 monthly level, important level resistance. At the moment, as you can see, it's just blasting through it. Still 14 days to go. Does this become a big wick, or does it push on up to the next level, which is this swing high here of 4588? Bearing in mind, I know I sound like a bit of a broken record, but the VIX is still at monster low levels that we've not seen since the COVID crash back in Feb 2020. So I really would err on the side of caution. And as I keep saying as well, Bitcoin, if we look at the S&P, has been in a strong uptrend, especially the past 4 or 5 weeks. Strong uptrend on the S&P. Bitcoin the past 4 or 5 weeks, strong downtrend. So what happens if the S&P does turn and starts to retrace? with that relative weakness that Bitcoin has been showing, do we follow it and follow it hard? I think that is quite likely. So be interesting to see. I personally think the BlackRock ETF slash fund, I think, is actually bearish in the short term and very, very bullish in the long term. I think that it's going to end up causing BTC to trade similar to gold. So if you go back and see what happened with gold when it got its own ETF, gold was very volatile. A lot of gold got bought up for the ETF because, as I said, it was physical. So you have to have the gold on your books, like you will have to have Bitcoin on your books if you want to do the physical ETF slash fund. So it's going to cause prices to rip up when they start buying. But then once it's on the books, I think it then stabilizes the price like it did with gold. And I think that's what's going to happen to Bitcoin long term. Big funds, institutions, pension funds, etc., don't want huge volatility. So they're going to want Bitcoin to just steadily go up over the years without the big massive drops that it has at the moment. So I think long term that's what's probably going to happen. But the reason I think it's short term bearish, I think they're going to want to suppress price as low as possible to really stock up on their bags, as low as possible. They've got all the tools in terms of the media that they can use to drive prices down, regulatory action, etc. And I think that over the next 3 to 6 months, this is all speculation, of course. Don't bet 100% on this happening. Get in when you feel it is a good time. But I feel over the next 3 to 6 months, we could be going lower. And I think that BlackRock are going to use this opportunity to scoop up Bitcoin for cheaper, scare retail out of their bags, and then it's all going to be sunshine and roses when they deem the time is right. So we'll have to wait and see whether I'm right on that. That's just my personal speculation. Of course, not financial advice. We don't offer that on this channel. But what I would say, if you're looking at altcoins at the moment, they are at very, very good buying levels. If we just take a random example of DOT, we are back at levels of 2020, 2020. Down to, in fact, let's go to a higher time frame, shall we? We're back at these levels here, and look where we went. We went from $3-4 up to $50, $55, and we're back there again. We're back in this $4 range. So yes, we could go lower. Maybe we retest the very bottom of this range at sub $4. Maybe we do a little deviation, take out all these lows. But at the end of the day, if you're buying down at $4, are you gonna care whether you bought at $4 or $3 when it returns to 20, 30, 40? Probably not. So yes, keep some dry powder. We probably are going to go a little bit lower, but I wouldn't be passing up the opportunities here. I think it's still very good buying opportunities. Especially if you can, you're using money that you can afford to lose. You can wait the drawdown out, and you will be rewarded for your patience. But as I say, not financial advice. Just the ramblings of a person that has been through several cycles and is very optimistic and pro crypto. So take it all with a pinch of salt. Do your own research. Do your own TA, all that good stuff. Hope you have a good weekend and watch this space, because over the next 3 to 6 months, things are going to get very, very interesting. So take care, and I'll see you on Monday for another roundup of what to look out for next week.